So why aren't you vegan yet? It's really strange that the world isn't vegan by now. Because I would think that most people, if I was to ask them, they would say that they're against animal cruelty. But you're literally funding some of the worst acts of animal cruelty taking place. Every time you consume a non-vegan product, which is probably, like every morning, every afternoon, every evening of every day. And even for eggs, you are funding some pretty extreme acts of animal cruelty. In the egg industry, at the hatcheries, where all egg-laying hens come from, even the organic, free-range egg-laying hens, they cannot determine the sex of the chicks until they hatch. So upon hatching, they sort the males like they did here. These are all male chicks that just hatched, and they're dumping them into a macerator to grind them up alive. If you would not support an industry that grinds up kittens alive, if you would not support an industry that grinds up puppies alive, why on earth are you supporting the egg industry, which grinds up little male chicks alive? And in case you don't know, one egg has over twice as much cholesterol as a Big Mac. Since when are Big Macs healthy? Especially eating like 2 of them in a row. And those egg-laying hens, they are forced to produce like 10 times more eggs than is natural. See, in nature, a hen would only lay about 1 to 2 dozen eggs per year. But in the egg industry, these birds are forced to produce 200 to 300 eggs per year. That puts an enormous amount of stress on their body. So by the time they're just a year and a half of age, they become spent, meaning they can no longer produce enough eggs to be profitable, so they are sent to slaughter. These birds can live over 7 years, but these egg-laying hens are slaughtered at just about a year and a half of age. They're forced to produce about 10 times more eggs than is natural. That puts an enormous amount of stress on their bodies, and that causes a lot of health issues. So yeah, eggs are bad, very bad. And dairy, just as bad, if not worse. See, most people don't realize that dairy cows produce milk because they are mothers, not because they're dairy cows. Like, most people actually think that dairy cows produce milk because they're dairy cows. That's just what they do. They make milk. No, they produce milk because they're mothers. In the dairy industry, those dairy cows have to be pregnant in order for them to start lactating. They are forcibly impregnated. And as soon as they give birth, their babies are taken from them. If those babies are boys, on some dairy farms, they will kill the male calves right away. But typically what they do with the male calves is they send them off to the veal industry to be raised for a few weeks and then slaughtered. But even if they're sold off to the beef industry, beef cattle are slaughtered between 12 to 22 months of age. They can live over 20 years. So yeah, even cattle are slaughtered very, very young for you to be able to eat a steak. And the dairy cows are sent to slaughter when they can no longer produce enough milk to be profitable. The dairy cows are forced to produce like 10 times more milk than is natural. And that puts a lot of stress on their bodies. on top of the stress of having baby after baby after baby stolen from them. That causes a lot of emotional distress for these animals. And, you know, this is typical in the dairy industry. After those little calves are taken off those dairy cows, it's pretty much standard practice throughout the entire dairy industry across the globe that most of these calves are kept in tiny little pens like this, mostly outdoors. So if it's snowing, they're out there in the snow. If there's a blizzard, they're out there in the blizzard. If it's minus 20 degrees out there, they're out there. If they're in Florida and a hurricane comes through, they're out there in a hurricane. When it reaches 100 degrees, they're out there in the blazing Florida sun. So you need to realize that if you are not vegan, you are in fact funding some of the worst acts of animal abuse taking place. So you can't say that you're against animal abuse if you're not vegan, because you're literally funding it like all day long. For like every breakfast you eat that isn't vegan, you're literally paying people. You're employing a person to abuse and kill an animal. And like I said, even for eggs, animals are being killed. Even for dairy products, animals are being killed. Little male calves are being killed in the dairy industry so you can have their baby food. Little male chicks are being killed in the egg industry so you can eat artery clogging carcinogenic crap. It doesn't even make sense. And dairy products are also carcinogenic. My former supervisor was instructed by her doctor to not consume dairy products because she has a family history of breast cancer. And dairy products increases the risk of breast cancer. Yeah, Paul McCartney's wife, Linda McCartney. Yeah, she was a vegetarian who consumed dairy products. She died of breast cancer. And there's also a strong link between dairy products and multiple sclerosis. Another famous person who's a vegetarian but consumes dairy products, Christina Applegate. And she has multiple sclerosis. There's also a link between babies being given cow's milk and type 1 diabetes. My father was a type 1 diabetic. His mother had leukemia. She wasn't supposed to have a baby, but she did. Before she gave birth to my father, she was in the hospital, and she was there and died when he was 4 months old. And I'm sure she didn't breastfeed him. I'm sure he was probably given cow's milk. And he ended up with type 1 diabetes, and he died at the age of 59 from a heart attack. Because when you have diabetes, that increases your risk of having a heart attack by like 50%. But a plant-based diet significantly reduces your risk of heart disease, kidney disease, type 2 diabetes, many forms of cancer, cerebrovascular disease. Yeah, there's even a link between animal fat and cholesterol and Parkinson's disease. So yeah, it just makes sense to go vegan, because not only is it the best thing you can do for the animals, it's also the best thing you can do for your own health. If you go vegan, and especially if you stick to as close to a whole foods organic plant-based diet as possible, you are going to significantly reduce your risk of getting cancer, getting heart disease, getting kidney disease. That's not coming from me. That's coming from the American Institute for Cancer Research, the National Kidney Foundation, the American Heart Association. And in case you don't know, animal agriculture is the most environmentally destructive industry that has ever existed. It is the leading cause of deforestation, species extinction, water pollution, water depletion, ocean dead zones, ocean plastics, pandemics, world hunger and climate change. Yeah, there are 1 billion people right now starving because food they could be eating is being used to fatten livestock. So privileged people can eat meat and consume dairy products. Right now, there are literally tens of billions of animals being raised for their flesh and secretions. I think right now it's like 20 billion chickens. 20 billion chickens right now being raised. I think it's about 3 billion pigs being raised right at this very moment for their flesh. I think it's like 1.5 billion heads of cattle being raised for their flesh right now. Not to mention all the other animals. So, and most of these animals are kept in overcrowded, shit-filled dungeons. In such filth, they have to be given antibiotics to keep them alive long enough to make it to the slaughterhouse. Like pigs. Yeah, most pigs raised for their flesh are literally kept in shit-filled dungeons for 6 months. These pigs can live over 10 years, but they're ready to be slaughtered at 6 months of age. So they're just babies when they're slaughtered. And these little piglets, they have their tails cut off. They have their teeth clipped. They have their ears clipped. The males are castrated, all without any anesthesia. And again, they're forced to live in shit-filled dungeons for 6 months. Before they are literally hours with no food, no water. They're shitting, they're pissing on each other. When they arrive at that slaughterhouse, they do not go in willingly. They're forced to their deaths. They're forced right off of those transport trucks down a narrow chute straight to the kill floor. If those animals manage to turn around, there are workers right there with electric prods to force them to turn back around and to force them forward to their deaths. You don't even have to go into a slaughterhouse to understand the horror taking place inside. Just stand outside of a slaughterhouse and listen to these animals scream for their lives. These animals are screaming for every single meal that you consume that is not vegan. These animals are screaming for their lives. You're forcing them to die. So for those of you, stop forcing your beliefs on us. Well, if I could force you to go vegan, I absolutely would force you to stop hurting animals. But unfortunately, I can't. You can very easily ignore me like you ignore your victims and pretend like this isn't happening, or pretend like there's some humane way of going about this. Like somebody just commented a few minutes back about Temple Grandin. Yeah, Temple Grandin's slaughter methods. So humane that I can't even show it to you without having my TikTok content removed for violating guidelines for showing graphic and violent content. Yeah, because it's so humane that I can't even show you it because it would be removed for containing violent and graphic content. Yeah, just like there's no humane way to rape someone, just like there is no humane way to rob someone, there is no humane way to kill someone. And treating someone nice before you kill and eat them, that certainly is not humane. That is psychotic. Like, even if you were to raise your own animals and treat them like you would treat your dog or your cat, I mean, that's pretty psychotic, you know, because that would be just like the same thing as killing your cat or killing your dog, you know, treating them really nice for weeks or months, and then one day you just slash their throat, chop off their head, dismember them. And you think it was humane because, oh, but I treated them nice first. I mean, like any other victimizer, you know, victimizing someone, you actually think it would be okay as long as they, you know, say take the little kid out to a amusement park before they victimize that child. Oh, it's okay because, you know, he treated him really nice before he did all those awful things to him. I mean, you are just in such a severe state of denial. Denial is a defense mechanism people use when they do not want to face reality. And you need to face reality, okay? Because these animals are suffering because of your choices. And that is not right. Yeah, report me for what? For telling the truth? Report me for trying to convince people to stop hurting animals? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. My content should go viral, as anybody's content who is trying to expose an atrocity that most people are unaware is taking place. Because most people don't even think twice when they go to a grocery store or when they go shopping for clothes or when they go to a zoo or they go to a restaurant. They don't even think twice. But start putting yourself in the place of these victims. Because, you know, when you go grocery shopping and you pick up a steak, that isn't a steak, okay? That is the remains of an animal that was brutalized and forced, terrified into a slaughterhouse and hacked to pieces. Put yourself in that victim's place. When you go to a zoo, put yourself in the place of those animals. Imagine you're the one on display and that you literally are stuck in that little display area for your entire existence. Just so the people putting you on display can make money. And you're literally stuck there. Yeah, I don't think anybody would want to trade places with any of these animals who are being exploited, who are being victimized. And it's not just the cows and the pigs and the chickens and the fish that are being intentionally killed for your food preferences. It's also wild animals. No, report yourself. Report yourself. I'm literally here stating facts about the animal agriculture industry. And you're here defending animal abuse. If you pay the hitman, you are the murderer. True story. Like if you hire somebody to kill somebody for you and you get caught, you are going to be charged with murder. When you're employing people to mutilate animals, to force animals to live in overcrowded, shit-filled dungeons like something out of a fucking Saw movie. When you're employing people to hack animals to pieces, you're an animal abuser. If you pay the hitman, you are the murderer. I'm just stating facts. If you pay someone to kill someone on your behalf and you get caught, you're going to be charged with murder. That is a fact. That is not me trying to badmouth you. That is just me stating the obvious. Stating a fact. If you can't handle the facts, that's your issue, not mine. I'm here to stand up for your victims. Okay? These are the victims, not you. And it's sad that most people, you know, when they come across vegans, they automatically are like, why are you vegans putting us down? I'm not putting you down. I'm literally just stating facts. You literally pay people to mutilate and brutalize and neglect and torture and kill animals. And yeah, most of these animals are being tortured. Pigs literally have their tails cut off. They have their teeth clipped. They have their ears clipped. The males are castrated without any anesthesia. And they're forced to live. This is like standard conditions. Most pigs being raised for their flesh are literally raised in overcrowded, shit-filled dungeons for 6 months before they're crammed onto a transport truck in the freezing cold of winter or in the stifling heat of summer to travel for hours with no food, no water, shitting and pissing on each other. And again, when they arrive at that slaughterhouse, they do not go in willingly. They are forced forward to the kill floor. Some of these animals are still conscious. Like, here in the United States, every single day, 30 million animals are slaughtered across the United States each day. 30 million animals slaughtered. These pigs are put through scalding tanks to remove the hairs on their skin. I have seen undercover footage of some of these pigs still alive and conscious and screaming and trying to jump out of the scalding tanks used to remove the hairs on their skin. And when you're, talking about 30 million animals being slaughtered each day across the U.S., I guarantee right at this very moment, there are pigs in scalding tanks, alive and conscious and screaming and trying to jump out of those scalding tanks. I have seen undercover footage of chickens inside the scalding tanks that are used to defeather them, alive and screaming. Have you ever heard a chicken scream? You might have heard a pig scream, but have you ever heard a chicken scream? Okay? Yeah. They're screaming right now inside of these slaughterhouses that are used to produce the products that you consume on a daily basis. So it's not just, an occasional animal you pay someone to torture and kill. You're literally employing people to torture and kill animals all day long. And in the United States, each year, approximately 20 million animals die on those transport trucks that ship them to slaughter. 20 million animals each year die on those transport trucks. It's either typically because they freeze to death in the winter, because every single day, 30 million animals are being forced into slaughterhouses across the United States every day. This does not stop in the wintertime. This does not stop in the summertime. So yeah, if it's freezing cold up north, yes, some of these animals do freeze to death on those transport trucks. If it's summertime, down south, some of those animals do die from heat stroke. So you need to wake up and you need to go vegan, unless you are pro animal cruelty. Maybe you are. I can't change that. There's something wrong with people who get off abusing animals. There's something, seriously, there's something wrong with people who get off abusing animals. I don't think it's anything that they can help. Something wrong with their brain chemistry, or the fact that part of their brain didn't develop properly. But every single day, I literally sign petitions against people who abuse dogs, who abuse cats. So I know there are lots of people out there who get off abusing animals. So obviously, I'm not going to convince you to go vegan. I mean, maybe if you're concerned about your health, maybe that can get you to stop hurting animals because, oh, like, you know, I don't want to get cancer. I don't want to get heart disease. But no, I pretty much understand it's a lost cause for anybody who's an animal abuser. Okay. But if you're not an animal abuser and you're against animal abuse, you need to go vegan, and you need to go vegan right now. Because if you're not vegan, you are literally funding some of the worst acts of animal cruelty taking place. And you're doing this for every single non-vegan product you consume. And yeah, just in case you don't know, bacon is carcinogenic. Yeah, meat, carcinogenic. And it causes heart disease, the leading cause of death. It's not vegans dropping dead by the thousands prematurely each day from heart attacks and strokes and cancer. It's not vegans causing pandemics like COVID and bird flu and swine flu. So yeah, it's not just the cows and the animals are being killed intentionally for your food preferences if you're not vegan. Even for fish. You know, like sea lions actually have to eat salmon to survive. But because the fishing industry wants to kill those salmon to sell that salmon to you for profit, they're having sea lions killed. And in case you don't know, the average seafood consumer ingests 11,000 plastic particles on top of mercury, which can cause brain damage. Yeah, the average seafood consumer ingests 11,000 plastic particles per year. And yeah, there's other ways to get your omega-3 fatty acids, much healthier ways. There are several different plant foods that contain omega-3s. Seicha inchi seeds. I actually like the Seicha inchi oil. Just 1 tablespoon has over twice as much omega-3 fatty acids as a serving of salmon. So yeah, you can very easily get all the nutrients you need on a plant-based diet and be better off for it too. And so yeah, not just the sea lions being intentionally killed so you can consume seafood, but prairie dogs being killed because prairie dogs compete with cattle for grazing land. See down here? The prairie dog's natural source of food are short grasses and flowering plants that grow in the grasslands, and this is what gets them in trouble. Ranchers want to use this same grass to feed their cattle. So yeah, they're killing off the prairie dogs so people can eat beef. And they're also killing off wild American here. Rounds up thousands and thousands of wild American horses with our tax dollars. Some of these horses get injured, break their leg, have to be euthanized. Some of these horses are mothers and they have babies with them, and their babies often die of exhaustion trying to keep up with their mothers as they're being terrorized by these helicopters. Once these horses are rounded up, they are taken to government holding facilities. And from there, they are typically auctioned off. And who buys these horses at auction? Kill buyers mostly. They buy them cheap and they ship them into Canada. They ship them into Mexico, where it is legal to slaughter them for horse meat. That is what they're doing with our wild American horses so that people can eat beef. And they're also killing off kangaroos by the millions in Australia for the same reason, because those kangaroos compete with livestock for grazing land. So they're literally annihilating kangaroos. They're also annihilating wolves and cougars and bears and bobcats and foxes and lynxes and coyotes, because those animals are a threat to livestock. So yeah, it's not just the cows and the pigs and the chickens and the fish that are intentionally killed for your food preferences. It's also wild animals like sea lions, prairie dogs, wild American horses, foxes, wolves, cougars, bobcats. So yeah, don't claim to be an animal lover if you're not vegan. Don't even claim to be a nature lover if you're not vegan. You're the animal's worst enemy. And animal agriculture is literally causing the 6th mass extinction. Every single second, an acre of land is cleared, and it is mainly to graze and grow food for livestock. So think of all the plant species, all of the animal species being wiped out as an acre of land is cleared per second, and it's mainly to graze and grow food for livestock. Yeah, animal agriculture is the leading cause of deforestation, and it is the leading cause of species extinction because of the deforestation, and also because of the mass killing, the intentional mass killing of literally millions and millions of wild animals. Animal agriculture is also the leading cause of water depletion because, you know, these animals raised for their flesh and secretions, they consume a lot more grains and other crops than we consume directly. In fact, cattle, for instance, most cattle raised for beef are literally on dirt and shit covered feedlots being fed grains. And it takes 12 to 22 months to fatten cattle for slaughter. So, yeah, they have to be fed day after day after day. And it takes as much as 16 pounds of grains to get just 1 pound of beef in return. Chickens, it takes as much as 6 pounds of grains to get just 1 pound of poultry in return. So these crops needed to feed these animals. A lot more crops have to be produced to feed all of these ceaseless tens of billions of animals. So a lot more water has to be used to produce the crops needed to feed livestock than need to be produced to feed humans directly. And these animals have to be given water. Cattle can drink like 20 to 30 gallons of water per day. And then these huge shit-filled sheds that house the turkeys by the thousands, that house the pigs by the thousands, that house the chickens by the thousands. Those sheds have to be cleaned. What do you think they're being cleaned with? Water. Yes, over 50% of the fresh water is directed to the animal agriculture industry. So yes, not only is animal agriculture the leading cause of deforestation and species extinction, it is also the leading cause of water depletion. And it is also the leading cause of water pollution and ocean dead zones because, for instance, every single minute in the United States, livestock produce 7 million pounds of manure per minute, which is like 130 times more excrement than the entire U.S. population of humans produce each minute. Most of that excrement ends up in the rivers, which lead to the oceans, which leads to ocean dead zones. And 50% of the plastics in the oceans come from ghost fishing gear from the commercial fishing industry. Yes, so animal agriculture, commercial fishing is the leading cause of ocean plastics. And animal agriculture is the leading cause of world hunger. Right now, there are 1 billion people starving right now, as tens of billions of animals being raised for their flesh and secretions are well fed today. They're not well cared for, but they are well fed, as 1 billion people starve. So that privileged people can eat meat and dairy products. And researchers at Oxford University did an We face 3 epoch-defining environmental problems: climate, extinction, and pestilence. Our climate is changing in ways that will have serious consequences for humans, and it may even profoundly affect the ability of the planet to support life. All around us, other species are disappearing at a rate between several hundred and several thousand times the normal background rate of extinction. The COVID virus, which has wreaked social and economic havoc, is merely the latest model off a blossoming production line of newly emerging infectious diseases, many of which have the potential to be far worse. At the heart of these problems lies an ancient habit: eating animals. This habit is the most significant driver of species extinction and of newly emerging infectious diseases, and one of the most important drivers of climate change. This is a habit we can no longer afford to indulge. And in case you don't know, even Albert Einstein knew that nothing will benefit health and increase the chances for survival of life on Earth as the evolution to a vegetarian diet. And no, dairy products do not come from vegetation, and no, eggs do not come from vegetation. So he's talking about a strict plant-based diet. And here is a quote from Nikola Tesla. It is certainly preferable to raise vegetables, and I think, therefore, that vegetarianism is a commendable departure from the established barbarous habit that we can subsist on plant food and perform our work even to advantage is not a theory, but a well-demonstrated fact. Many races living almost exclusively on vegetables are of superior physique and strength. There is no doubt that some plant foods, such as oatmeal, is more economical than meat and superior to it in regard to both mechanical and mental performance. In view of these facts, every effort should be made to stop the wanton and cruel slaughter of animals, which must be destructive to our morals. Yes, so Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, even Sir Isaac Newton, Leonardo da Vinci, Socrates, Pythagoras, Plato, Plutarch, all abstained from eating animals because they knew it was immoral and unjust. And I think I'm going to get ready to sign off. Because I think it's really pathetic, you know. Here it is, 2022. And most people don't understand the fact that dairy cows produce milk because they're mothers, not because they're dairy cows. These dairy cows are forcibly impregnated. And when they give birth, their babies are stolen. If those babies are boys, they are slaughtered On some farms, they will kill the male calves right away, but typically they're sent to the veal industry and slaughtered at just a few weeks of age for their flesh so that you can have their baby food. Some dairy farmers might sell the little male calves off to the beef industry, but again, beef cattle, they're slaughtered between 12 to 22 months of age. These animals can live over 20 years, but they're all slaughtered very, very young. And again, most of these little male calves won't see their first birthday, not even anywhere near their first birthday. And they certainly will not see their second birthday. And this image behind me, this is a screenshot of an undercover investigation at a slaughterhouse where they are slaughtering the male calves taken off of the dairy cows. If you Google Kinder World Calf Slaughter, you will find this video. And I dare you to watch it. It's only 2 minutes long. If you could just watch even 5 seconds of it, I think that will be enough to make you realize that the dairy industry is really, really vile. I mean, look at this baby's face. This is a baby. He should be with his mother, not terrified inside of a slaughterhouse. This is the moment before this little animal was killed. And this thing, who is being employed by dairy consumers, after he kills these little calves, he hangs them up by their leg, and then he uses them as a punching bag. And he is literally laughing and giggling and having the time of his life working at this slaughterhouse, killing these little baby animals. And again, the only reason why he's here killing these little baby animals is because you employ him to do this, because you consume dairy products. And this is why this is happening. So you need to go vegan unless, you're for animal abuse, unless, you could work in a slaughterhouse, and I think you should. If you think it's okay to slaughter animals, I think you should have to work in a slaughterhouse, slaughtering those animals all day, every day, with your own hands, since, you see nothing wrong with it. I think that's the least that should happen. You should have to work in this slaughterhouse, being the one to kill these animals with your own hands. Well, with a knife, but, with your... And see how that goes for you. And people who are violent towards animals, yeah, they rarely stop there. So anybody who is like, oh, yeah, I could kill an animal, no problem. Yeah, people who harm animals rarely stop there. So before I sign off, just in the search box here right on TikTok, do a search for vegan recipes. You will come across endless vegan recipes right here on TikTok. Hundreds of TikTokers who post vegan recipes. Give some of those people a follow and you will see how easy it is to be vegan and how just about anything and everything can be veganized. So whatever you like, just put the word vegan in front of it. Like ice cream, just put vegan ice cream. You'll see TikTokers who post recipes of how to make your own vegan ice cream. If you like fried chicken, just put vegan fried chicken and you'll see TikTokers right on this app showing you how to make vegan fried chicken, how to make vegan cheese. Just about anything and everything can be veganized. And the vegan version is going to be better for your health, better for the health of the planet, and no animals have to die. No farmed animals and no wild animals. So unless, you're for animal abuse, you need to go vegan and do it right now. Don't hesitate another second. My only regret about going vegan is that I didn't do it a hell of a lot sooner. And no, meat is not healthy. The more meat, dairy, and egg products you consume, the more risk you have of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, kidney disease. Those are like some of the most deadly and most common health conditions. And from the American Institute for Cancer Research, a plant-based diet not only helps reduce your risk of getting many forms of cancer, if you have cancer, a plant-based diet can help fight it. From the National Kidney Foundation, not only does a plant-based diet help prevent kidney disease. If you have kidney disease, a plant-based diet can help slow the progression. From the American Heart Association, a plant-based diet helps reduce your risk of heart disease. It's the only diet known to reverse heart disease. Just watch Dr. Sanjay Gupta's The Last Heart Attack. Not only is a plant-based diet, going to significantly reduce your risk of heart disease, it could even help reverse it if you have it. So heart disease is the leading cause of death around the globe. So it just makes sense to go vegan because it's the best thing you can do for the animals. It's the best thing you can do for your own health. It's the best thing you can do to help save the planet. So just start searching for vegan recipes right here on TikTok or other social media apps, or just Google vegan recipes. You can find endless vegan recipes all over the internet. Also, look up Happy Cow, happycow.net. Put in your city and you will find vegan and vegan-friendly restaurants in just about any city. Grocery stores are filled with vegan options, all fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds are vegan. Most pasta is vegan. Most cereal is vegan. So many plant-based burgers on the market, plant-based chicken products on the market, plant-based cheeses, plant-based ice cream, even plant-based seafood. Just about anything and everything can be veganized. So just start looking into this and you'll see how easy it is to be vegan. So much better for your health, and I don't understand why anyone would want to continue to pay people to hurt animals when there's no need to, and you could be healthier for it, and you can still eat delicious foods.